Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother...
Welcome to the party, pal!
Welcome to another Yippee-Ki-Yay Movie Showdown. Today's genre is vampire films, and our defending champion from Buddy Films is John Quattrucci. So he'll be going last in this challenge, and he's challenged by Sean Murphy and me, Ralph Quattrucci. But before we do that, normally at this point we do What'd You Watch This Week? But we got so excited about the vampire film genre, we all started throwing out all these films that we could bring. And we realized it's such a rich genre that we wanted to talk a little bit more about other vampire films that didn't make this cut. Now, this cut is 3 that we picked for this one, but there's a ton of them. So I'm going to kind of go around the horn with people who wanted to talk about other vampire films. And tonight, let's start with John Quattrucci. Is there a film that you didn't? Now, you're bringing, what are you bringing tonight?
I'm bringing What We Do in the Shadows, nice. Which is 2014. I'll talk about that later, but
we'll do that. And Sean
I struggled. I struggled big time with this because the movie I wanted to pick that I knew wouldn't win was Dracula, the original Dracula, 1931, Todd Browning, Bela Lugosi. But
to be honest, I wouldn't let you bring it.
You what?
I would not let you bring it.
Yeah, so we made a deal. He said I could talk about it for a little bit. He gave me a little bit of time because, look, here's why I wanted to pick this movie. I asked my wife, I go, hey, do me a favor. Give me an impression of a vampire. And she goes, I want to suck your blood. And I said, now, why is that the voice it used? And the reason is because of that movie, 1931. And when you think of a vampire and you think of the tuxedo, you think about the cape, you think about the voice, you think about Dracula. Now, also Nosferatu, that iconic image of Max Schreck's character, Count Orlok, and also they also created the trope of the sun, which wasn't in the Bram Stoker novel. The sun can destroy a vampire. That wasn't in the novel. That came out of that film. Also, the crucifix. The crucifix was not a big deal in the Bram Stoker novel. In Dracula, they made it a big deal. All the movies that came forward after this is based a little bit on the legend that this movie created, which wasn't even really based on much of the novel. It was more based on a play. But I just felt it was my duty as a film historian to make sure that we give the props to both Nosferatu and Dracula, because those 2 movies set the tone for all the vampire movies that followed. So that's all I want to say about that, and I'll talk more about my movie later.
Okay. Drew, what do you got? You got any vampire films that came to your brain?
I've got 2, but it's really going to be 3. So the first one I want to talk about is Fright Night from 1985. It's just a really great example of an 80s movie, an 80s horror movie, a horror comedy. It's just got, great gore effects and makeup. It's everybody in it is totally committed to the idea. And the whole premise of it is that a weird guy moved in next door to the main character, and the main character is a teenager who thinks that his neighbor might be a vampire. And they get a lot of mileage out of that. And they have a great cast in the movie. And to my great satisfaction, they made a remake of it in 2011, I think. That was also really good, with Colin Farrell and David Tennant and Anton Yelchin, the late Anton Yelchin, as the lead. And that was it was a little more of a straight type of horror movie. It wasn't as funny, but it was very effective and really well done, and I enjoyed that. But especially after what John just said, making sure that you respect the history of vampire movies. The other movie that I was thinking about is Shadow of the Vampire from 2000. It was produced by Nicolas Cage, and it got Willem Dafoe an Oscar and other nominations. It also had a Best Makeup nomination for Dafoe's character as much as anything else. And it's a very clever movie about how in 1921, when Murnau was shooting Nosferatu, the guy that he found to play Count Orlok, Max Schreck is the name of the actor, that Max Schreck was actually a vampire. And he starts eating the crew, and it affects the movie. It's great, and it's clever, and it's funny. And the more that you know about the story of Dracula and the story of Nosferatu and how it was an illegal version, adaptation of Bram Stoker's book, the more you get all the inside references and ideas, and a wonderful cast. And there's some stuff in that very dark, strange movie that's also very, very funny. So when you said vampires, those were among the list. And the other one, of course, is What We Do in the Shadows, which John's going to talk about tonight. So a lot of good stuff out there.
Did you say Nicolas Cage produced that movie?
Yeah, that was Nicolas Cage.
I didn't know
produced
that.
it with Saturn Films. Yeah, that's his shingle.
Yeah, that was based on, they thought Max Schreck was a very odd, the real Max Schreck was a very odd character, and that's what kind of sprung from that.
Yeah, no, he was by any standard an eccentric dude. The movie just said, well, what if he wasn't really acting?
Right. And Defoe was great in it too.
He's great.
No,
I
I don't
don't
have
care, and all these great people.
I don't have a huge memory of watching a lot of different vampire movies over the years, but once you brought that one up, I do remember seeing that one and enjoying it.
Cool.
It's just been such a long time, but
Yeah.
20 years now.
Yeah.
20 years, that movie.
Yeah.
Malkovich
Probably
was
got it
funny
from
in that
Cranbrook
too.
Video, I'm guessing.
Boy,
Cranbrook Video. Rest in
there it
peace.
is. Sean and Debbie, or you guys got your teeth in? Debbie
I
does.
like to say this about the vampires. Bela Lugosi, darling, he was the best. I'm talking like this. You got to keep standing.
Be careful you don't swallow
Yeah,
those.
don't swallow those things.
But basically, vampire, being in the blood business my whole life,
That's true, folks.
That is true.
hemoglobin, my business, love it. Four molecules of heme holds, a lot of oxygen.
Okay.
It's amazing, but I love Transylvania. I love transfusions. I love everything about blood, really.
Any movies, though?
What'd you say, Drew?
Any movies?
Any movies?
Movies. I love all of them. Bela Lugosi, #1.
Oh, okay.
And he's the #1 Dracula to me.
Did you guys make a lot of when you're doing all this blood work? Did you make a lot of vampire jokes in the office?
All the time.
Oh, good. You have one?
Nothing that really doesn't suck.
All right. Okay, Sean. That's good. Sean, I know you're bringing what to the show?
I'm bringing the Night Stalker, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But
Earl Kolchak.
I will say I got to go with John that Dracula is essentially it, and I know why people would be hesitant to bring it because it is really slow moving. It's based more on the novel than the thing, but Bela Lugosi really brings something, and I think the first half. In all Dracula versions, the Harker and Transylvania stuff's always better. But that's a classic film. If we want to go back to another great classic, which was unmentioned, it'd be Carl Theodor Dreyer's Vampire, which if you haven't seen it from 1932, it has some really arresting images in it, of a burial and all. It's very creepy. It's 1932, but it's practically a silent movie, but it's another fabulous European film. I love all vampire movies, and I do want to say a little more about Dracula. I mean, it's been redone millions of times. And if you've read the book, I really think the definitive version of Dracula has not been done yet. I think no movie has been as good as the book. And it's hard to do as a movie because it was an expository novel that it's all letters and all. So it's kind of difficult to make the narrative work. I do want to give a shout out to Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. So that would be Francis Ford Coppola's apostrophe, Bram Stoker's apostrophe Dracula, which suffered from some really unfortunate casting of Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. But the art direction had this great fantasy look, and the portrayal of Dracula was fantastic. But of course, it makes this mistake of trying to save Dracula. It's sort of like, we don't want to save Dracula. We don't want to save Michael Myers. We don't want to save Jason. We want him to be evil. We want him to terrorize us and then die. But I thought that was a really fabulous film. And some of the another one I really came close to picking was Dark from the there was a serial, a soap opera on television late 60s, 70s called Dark Shadows. That had a vampire named Barnabas, played by Jonathan
Frid.
Now, the show, I recently rewatched some of the episodes of the show. The show itself is unwatchable.
Doesn't hold up at all.
But the first film they made, the theatrical film, which tells the vampire story, called House of Dark Shadows, is a really, really terrific vampire movie. It's really well done. It's got great gore. It's got great color. It's almost like a Hammer horror film. You know, it's really vivid. I really enjoy it. There were a lot of fun vampire films like Blackula in the early 70s and Count Yorga Vampire in a sequel. You know, so there are a lot of great vampire films. I like some of the later ones, like what was the one where they're in the mobile home?
Near Dark.
Near Dark.
Near Dark. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the modern vampire films, and also 30 Days of Dark, 30 Days of Night,
yeah, mm-hmm.
really good too. But the good thing, the old vampire films always kind of fall on the fact that they get the vampire in the day, like Dracula. The ending is so anticlimactic.
Right.
You know, he's sleeping, they drive a stake through his heart. You know, so some of the modern ones have a lot of shootouts and this and that to make it more to make it a little more lively for today's audiences. But there are so many great vampire films.
John Carpenter did that one where James Woods is carrying around crossbows and
I love that silly movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
dragging them out of houses into the
Isn't
light
that called
and blowing up.
Vampires? Was that what
John,
they were called?
it's called John Carpenter's Vampire.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That was good. I like that. They were a hit team.
famous for Daniel
Woods.
Baldwin in that film. Mark
Hey, and I
Baldwin
will
did.
say also in but Dark Shadows is the first vampire movie where I saw them killing vampires with crossbows. You know, House of Dark Shadows, and it was really gory too. You know, big crossbow bolts going through people's chests and everything. You know, so that's a fantastic little film people should check out as well.
How about you, Ralph?
Well, okay, so the one I'm going to bring or brought is Love at First Bite, which is a satire from 1979. I was going to talk about specific ones, but I kind of want to talk about the vampire genre as allegories to a lot of things, and they use it for allegories for a bunch of things, right? So a movie like, there's and also famous, what's that HBO series that was on forever about the vampire?
True Blood.
True Blood. Okay, so there's movies where they're using vampires as allegories for AIDS, you know, the blood issue, or allegories for corporate struggle. You know, there's rich people that get the blood. Movies like Daybreakers and I can't think of them all right now. It's flooding, but you know, even a movie that I was going to talk about, which is Let the Right One In, that Swedish film about the little boy who befriends a vampire who ends up protecting him from bullying. So they even spread it out to bullying and things like that. So it's an allegory that can be used for all kinds of societal issues. And they use the vampire genre to kind of make it entertaining. I mean, even Twilight, which I honestly have not seen a frame of that series.
Oh,
I think that was probably allegories for racism and all kinds of stuff, right? There was all kinds of stuff going on in that, you know,
You want to
between
know
the
the truth
werewolves.
about that, Ralph?
What's that?
Want to know the truth about the blood? When we transfuse blood, transfusion, you know what you're talking about, people that are rich. Young people, babies, get the freshest units of blood, you know, that were just drawn the day before. 3 days before, has to be 3 days young blood drawn. And also, sickle cell anemia patients get fresh blood. Those are two requirements.
Okay.
Everybody else gets used blood.
Yeah, you have to recycle it. You have to.
I'm talking.
Good
I'm
job,
talking
Ralph.
I got it. Thank you. That's very
Good job
useful
about the
information.
allegories, Ralph. Good
But
job.
I'm talking about in the movies the way they use it, not real life.
Well,
IRL. I mean, come on.
same thing.
All right. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I just can't get over how rich this genre is, and how
Well,
there's
I mean,
comedies,
the
there's
reality
dramas,
is it was difficult to pick one movie.
very
when
difficult.
there's so many and it's so different, you know. And you also want to win, so it's like, do you pick one? Like, to be honest with you, Ralph and I had the discussion. He said, "What movie are you going to pick?" And the first one that popped in my head was Love at First Bite. It just automatically popped into my head, and I say, "I think I'd like to watch that." Then Ralph and I talked about it, and then I really started to think about the original Dracula, and I'm like, you know what? How can we do a show on vampires and not do that movie? Because it's not going to win. Ralph doesn't want to talk about it, but it's so ingrained in our psyche of what a vampire is.
You know,
I wanted to mention it.
I was working on a horror movie, and the director of the horror movie that I was working on brought up, mentioned Dracula, and I said, you know what? That is still one of my favorite horror films. And he's like, you know, me and my wife watch it all the time just to laugh at it. It's so bad. I did lose respect for that guy.
It's so
Well, I mean-
it's the way it's shot is it's really creepy. There's no music in it other than the opening. There's a lot of very, very creepy scenes in it. I mean, it's a little, it's a play. I mean, they filmed the play, so it's very stagey once they get out of the castle. But it's still, I mean, like I said with my wife, if you ask anyone to do an impression of a vampire, that's what they're going to do. They're not going to do Twilight. They're not going to do these other movies. They're going to do that vampire.
Because it's kitsch at this point. That's kitsch.
What's the guy? That's not fair. That undermines it, Ralph.
Sesame Street. What's that guy do? He goes 1, 2, 3.
The Count from Sesame Street.
The Count from Sesame.
But kitsch isn't fair. That's not fair.
John, just understand. We understand your reverence for the film, but it is Bela Lugosi is it's a caricature. He's now a caricature.
It's not a caricature when he's the first one to do it.
Yeah.
It's a caricature.
When you think of iconic vampire, that's what you think.
That's why Count Chocula is on a cereal box, and the Count in Sesame Street does the 1, 2, 3.
Count Chocula.
Count Chocula.
I mean, you're talking 19 and it still resonates today.
Drew's dying. Get in here, Drew.
Well, see, the other thing is, we're talking about it like vampire movies aren't a genre, because vampire movies are across lots of genres. There's a lot of movies, good and bad. Like Blade is a vampire movie that's also an action movie.
Right.
And Priest is a Paul Bettany movie that's a vampire movie that's really a Western, that's really a post-apocalyptic future. Like, it just goes on. And there's TV series, there's movies, there's great comedies like What We Do in the Shadows, which is itself a mockumentary, and it's a comedy, and it's a vampire film, and it's social comments, it's all this stuff. And so it was really fun to just think about just the breadth of it, because it does fit into so many things. There's lots of crappy ones too, but even like what I don't care for the Twilight series for a lot of different reasons, but it is a vampire, and it's a take on vampires that you can immediately recognize. It's very different than the explicitly violent and sexual take that you see in, say, True Blood, but that's also vampires. So I think it's fascinating that it's been that persistent. You can look at zombie stuff in the same way, and some of these monsters that are just bigger than Dracula. They're just that big. But the book of Dracula is not that old, but the idea of vampires in one version or another has been around for a long time. And I think it's cool that it not only does it keep showing up, but there's good things. The What We Do in the Shadows TV show that's currently on the air is still fantastic. So it's exciting.
We haven't even talked about Life Force.
Let's not forget the mob vampire movie, Innocent Blood.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Anthony LaPaglia.
Directed by Sean's favorite director.
Who directed that?
John Landis.
Oh, John Landis. Yeah. And Anna Paran, is that, what's her name?
I don't know. Yeah.
Anna Paran,
all right.
Right? She played
Let's get to the showdown.
I'll throw one little thing in there. It's not just to give my reverence. It's not even a movie, but just one of the best TV shows of all time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Of course.
Great show.
Show. Yes, that I do.
Call,
I did.
Brad.
Yeah, that is a good call. All right, Brad. You the man.
Bringing it.
So there's my
Bring it up.
contribution.
All right. Now let's get to the showdown. Leading off, I'll start off. Then Sean will go, and then the champion from last time will finish it up. Okay. So my film is called Love at First Bite.
There is a creature of the night whose very name strikes terror in the hearts of man. He fears only mirrors, the scent of garlic, and the sight of a crucifix. He feeds upon human blood. Only sunlight or a stake driven through his heart can destroy him or those whose blood he drinks. His name is Dracula.
I love you, and I can give you eternal life.
I knew it, an insurance salesman. I've already got Prudential.
I love the nightlife. I've got to boogie on the disco ride. Yeah.
Oh my, are you biting me?
Oh.
It was wild.
How many times did he bite you?
Oh, that. Just once. I told you it was our first date.
I won't let him get her.
I love the nightlife.
Well, Count, what do you say to that?
I would say leave Cindy alone and find yourself a nice Jewish girl, Doctor.
That's the other one, isn't it?
Dracula in New York. His style is irresistible. His curiosity is irrepressible. And when he takes a bite out of the Big Apple, his appetite is insatiable.
If you're hungry, master, we could ring for the night maid.
When you is gone, nobody's gonna bring you back here once you is dead.
Good evening.
Master, please be careful.
What is it?
You nearly stepped on my dinner.
Bon appetit. I heard a rooster crow.
A rooster in New York City?
I cannot believe what I'm hearing.
It's him. Yeah, or a rock group. The second way to kill a vampire, Count. 3 silver bullets through the heart.
No, Rosenberg. That is a fair wolf.
Really? Are you sure? I've lost her forever. He's drained all the blood out of her.
George Hamilton,
Is blood in your eye?
Susan St. James, Richard Benjamin, Dick Shawn, Sherman Hemsley, Isabel Sanford, and Artie Johnson as Renfield.
Finally, after 712 years, to have someone bite me again.
Love at first bite.
All right. So here's my pitch. That's got all the 70 stars in there, by the way. It's amazing.
Most
All
of them
right,
are
so
dead.
This is a direct homage to Dracula. He was mimicking Bela Lugosi. George Hamilton stars as Dracula. Artie Johnson's in there as Renfield. Susan St. James is playing Cindy Sondheim, a famous model. And it takes place in 1979. He gets kicked out of Transylvania. Somehow all the villagers come up and they kick him out of his house. So he's in love with this woman. He thinks he's a descendant of a past love of his. So he comes to New York City. And it just plays with New York City at that time, disco. It's definitely this came out directly because of Young Frankenstein. They took this and they were trying to do the same thing, kind of take a serious but funny approach and a reverent approach to the Dracula film, right down to the tuxedo and the accent and the whole deal. George Hamilton, known to be the tan god. He got himself all white for this and did a really nice job playing Dracula. And I just think it's a fun romp. And in this day of COVID and all the dark times we're having, I just think it would be a funny movie, kind of like
good allegory.
Drew's last. It is, you know what? It's an allegory about disco. Don't make fun of the word allegory, please. And you don't get in the middle of my pitch either. Right in the middle of my pitch. Anyway, I love this film. I was in high school, senior in high school in 79. Susan St. James was really cute. She played a great part in this. George Hamilton was fantastic.
Resurrected his career.
Yeah. And I just think it's a fun and it's a direct homage to the original Dracula. So it fits all the buttons and I just think it's a fun romp. So that's my pitch. All right. Up next, Sean Murphy.
Hi, the film I'm going to pick is 1972's The Night Stalker, starring Darren McGavin. Could we play the trailer?
Yeah, no, I just want to tell you, I try to dig these trailers up. They're hard to find for this one, and this one's super short, but it sort of gets at what you're doing here.
Darren McGavin stars as Kolchak, the Night Stalker. And now, Darren McGavin in The Night Stalker.
Okay, well, this is in my opinion is one of the best vampire movies ever made. It took the subject of vampires very seriously and placed it in modern context. I mean, other films have placed vampires in modern context. But this way, looking at the story through the eyes of a cynical reporter played by Darren McGavin, character Carl Kolchak, and places this vampire in Las Vegas in 1972 as a serial killer. It's a really terrific script by Richard Matheson, who is one of the best horror science fiction writers of the second half of the 20th century. It was produced by, I guess, their go-to guy for anything horror, Dan Curtis, who was also behind, Dark Shadows. He was also behind some of the bigger miniseries, like
he was.
Remembrance later. So he had a huge career. I think Darren McGavin is fabulous in this film as a cynical, but a believing reporter. I mean, he really believes in the news. He believes in getting the truth out, and he's battling the officials of Las Vegas. He's one of the first to really suspect that the serial killer is a vampire, and he's trying to get the city officials to take it seriously and get his scoop. Yeah, I think it's a very, it's a great film. It's like it's one of the great films that with voiceover. The film is essentially his cynical voiceover, which is very good. It's the framing story is he's writing a book about what happened and leaving it to your judgment to whether it really happened or not. Great script, really good music, a lot of great TV actors in it. And for our purposes too, it's also only 72 minutes long. This is one of the few films that I could watch now that I could say my problem with this movie is I wish it were a little longer. I mean, it handles the backstory and all perfectly. It says everything we need to say. But I really enjoyed this character so much. I wish I could spend more time with him. Obviously, so did America and ABC because they followed it up with another feature TV movie called The Night Strangler, which was also very good, not as good as this. And then they followed it up with a TV series, I think maybe 3 seasons.
One season.
One season, okay.
Yeah.
It was just the episodes were hit and miss.
Yeah.
Well, this was the best out of the group.
Yeah.
I remember being completely freaked out by this one, actually.
Yeah, this was, and I will say, me as a writer, my first one of the first scripts that really got me a lot of attention in Hollywood was a vampire script I wrote, and it's been optioned a couple times, but still hasn't been made. And it took a lot from this movie. I was just watching the movie today, and I could see that I actually took some lines from this movie. There's a lot of the vampirism in it is sort of a cross between literally this film, The Night Stalker, and the Dark Shadows film, House of Dark Shadows.
Is that plagiarism?
No, it's borrowing. It's homage.
It's an homage. It's homage. Yes. Yeah. It's flattery is the best. What is that line? It's
theft is
imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Let me just, since you mentioned 72 minutes, I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, that Love at First Bite is available on YouTube.
Oh.
The only issue is
Night Stalker.
Okay, good. I
2
can't
freebies.
wait. And the only issue is it doesn't have that one is 27 minutes. And next up is John Quattrucci. What do you got?
Okay, so I ultimately went with What We Do in the Shadows. And before I explain what it is, show the trailer. I think that'll give a little flavor on what this is about.
Let's go!
It's been like this the whole time, Deacon, on dishes, and it still hasn't moved in 5 years.
You're a cool guy, but you're not pulling your weight in the flat.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that I'm cool.
No, that's not the point, though.
Yeah,
You're missing
I
the
know.
point.
Not a flat meeting about how cool you are.
When you get 3 vampires in a flat, obviously there's going to be a lot of tension.
Viago was an 18th century dandy.
Look, a ghost cop.
Vladislav is a bit of a pervert.
This is my torture chamber.
Deacon's like the young bad boy of the group.
I'm supposed to pay rent, but I don't. The trouble with being a vampire is you have to be invited in.
Come in to the bar, please. $1 walker.
Will you invite us in?
We need some fresh blood.
Hi, my name is Nick. I've been a vampire for 2 months. My friend Rich is a bouncer. He'll invite us in.
Gentlemen, you are most welcome.
Nick is so much fun.
I'm a vampire.
Vampire! Vampire!
Such a dick.
Nick, why don't you use the front door? You want to draw attention to this house,
You've got a whole documentary crew following you around.
You let a vampire hunter into our
I don't
house.
let him in, I just give him my email. He doesn't...
Kill you! I'm already dead!
You Well, not the camera guy, maybe one camera guy.
Trying to take. Here's your legs. Wow.
What the f*** did that for? Hey, that was... Don't swear. What are we?
Werewolves, not werewolves.
When you're a vampire, you become very sexy.
So what it is the real world meets the office with vampires, basically is what it is. So it's directed by Jermaine Clement and I don't want to say, I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong, Taika Waititi, I think the name is. They wrote it and they directed it. They had 125 hours of footage, but the movie is 90 minutes long. They wrote a script, but didn't give any of the cast members the script so that everything that happened would be a surprise to everybody, including the crew who didn't know some of the stuff that was going to happen. Each vampire represents a different genre. Nosferatu, The Lost Boys, Twilight, Interview with a Vampire, and Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. It is really funny. I remember watching this thinking, what the hell is this movie about? And just laughing. Like the guys who said we're not swearwolves, we're werewolves. Those are the werewolves. There's a big tiff between those two groups. And I'm a big fan of Flight of the Conchords. So Jermaine Clement and Rhys Davey, who plays a werewolf, are in this. And it's just a really, really funny movie that I can't recommend higher. I thought 48 Hours was going to be a laugh fest, and it really wasn't. This is pretty much funny all the way through. It's just so goofy. And again, it's a real take on reality TV more than anything else. Really, really well done. And it tweaks the genre, but it also respects the genre too, which I found kind of cool too. So if you want something that's really funny without being 70s kitsch, this is the movie you want to watch. Night Stalker, great movie, love it, but it is a TV movie. This is more theatrical. It's just the one you want to watch.
Oh, he's really going for it, Sean.
Wow, I can't believe he attacked your film, Ralph, which is funny.
You know what?
I was Dracula Dead and loving it.
Oh, another good one.
I like cynical kitsch. Not cynical. I like 70s kitsch. So, and all of them have, think about this, Young Frankenstein, Love at First Bite, What Do We Do in the Shadows. They do have a reverence for what they're spoofing.
Yeah.
So, and yours came out, I mean, they kind of copied The Office and all that stuff everybody had been doing. So
more the real world.
Yeah, but it's copies. So it's like Sean stealing out of those books. They did the same thing. I just want to say. Yeah. All right. How long's that film, by the way?
90 minutes.
That's not
and
too bad.
And 89 minutes are pure laughter.
Okay. Any questions before we go to voting? Anybody?
Yeah. What minute is not the laughter? Because I want to go to the bathroom during that one.
The opening titles just aren't funny.
He said it's not pure laughter. That implies it could be impure laughter. And I know, Sean, you don't want to miss that.
Ring the bell.
Don't want to miss that.
Actually, I said this last week. The one thing I do like about this showdown, all the movies are good. So whatever we pick is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
No matter
Ultimately,
what.
yeah.
So.
But this is the first one where I think we all get super excited about the stuff that we didn't pick. I'm amazed at how everybody got charged up about this one. It just shows you how ingrained the vampire thing is in everybody. And
because of Bela Lugosi, absolutely.
It all started. I think Nosferatu started it, actually.
Most people have never seen Nosferatu, Ralph. Most everyone have seen Dracula.
Yeah, but
in fact, Nosferatu, because Bram Stoker's widow, there was all kinds of legal stuff going on. It was you couldn't see that for years.
Well, Drew, explain to me what you explained earlier about the end of the film you were talking about.
Yeah, spoilers. Shadow of the Vampire, it's very clever in a lot of ways about the way that movies are made and the story of the movies. And so in the end of Shadow of the Vampire, when John Malkovich plays the director Murnau, he's shooting Willem Dafoe, and they're shooting the last scene of the movie when Nosferatu is caught in the sunlight and he burns. And the way that they shoot it is that Willem Dafoe's character is caught in the sunlight as the crew opens a door and he leans back just like in the movie, and then the film turns to a negative and then actually burns, like it literally melts in the frame that you're watching. And that is a direct reference to the fact that Bram Stoker's widow and his estate went out of their way to not only stop Nosferatu from being seen, but let's burn all the copies.
Yeah.
So that movie is very literate in the history of early cinema, and especially of this movie Nosferatu. And Nosferatu itself, I mean, you know, it's just a great movie, and it spawned so many other things. And if you have an interest in it, if you watch Nosferatu, you watch the 1979 remake with Klaus Kinski, directed by Werner Herzog, and you watch Shadow of the Vampire, you're diving deep into vampire movie history, and it's worth your time.
That's great.
Yeah, and I got to see Nosferatu in a church with a live organist.
Oh, that's
playing
very
music.
Oh, really?
It was very cool.
And it was a
Very
good
cool.
print. It was a good print of it.
It was, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it's an amazing movie. The visuals are
Yeah,
German
it was-
expressionism. I mean, that makeup. Oh my God.
It was a fun experience.
Copy,
Yeah.
too. That
Well, people
expressionism was
take
much copy.
vampires very seriously. And when Sean wrote his screenplay on the vampire story,
I only wish I had my bell again for the name dropping, but go ahead.
when my uncle, who was a expert on vampires, when he read Sean's screenplay, he says, "You can't have that vampire do that. That's not allowed." Any vampire, if your imagination, you could, we need more vampire movies. And there's not enough of them. There's a lot of them, but we could use more.
We didn't even talk about the Hammer ones with Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, we could sit here. We could have a 3-hour conversation about all the vampires.
Yeah.
The lesbian ones. I think Roman
vampire-
Polanski directed one, right? He directed
talking
sort of
about
a
The Hunger?
comical.
Yeah, the Vampire Hunters.
The Vampire
The
Hunters.
Fearless
yeah.
Vampire Hunters.
Yeah.
I think that's the
And,
Polanski.
Roman Polanski, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We could go all day long. This is all night long because we can't come out during
All
the day.
night
I
long.
don't know what that means. I heard that before.
What?
All night long. What does that mean?
That's an Italian thing.
I don't get it.
The Lionel Richie song.
Debbie, were you drinking any of the blood that you were taking?
No.
I was
Okay.
drinking Bloody Marys
would do.
before we came on.
I only drink wine.
Here's
I do
a-
not drink.
All right,
Wine.
let's
Here's
go to the voting. Now,
Yeah.
only 3 people can vote right now. It's Debbie,
Oh God. So
Brad, and Drew. So we got to go to the voting here. Let's vote.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, this is Ty.
Okay. Right. So far, it's a tie. All right. Let's go to, I can't see anybody, but let's go to Brad. Which one are you going to pick here, Brad?
Okay, so as I watched all the trailers here, once I saw this trailer, it was no doubt in my mind I was picking this movie. But I don't have as much of an affinity for the '70s movies. So
no, not up here.
And what we do in the shadows is what I'm going to go with.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of the Flight of the Conchords and Jermaine Clement and YKY. I can't how to pronounce his name.
Whatever. Yep.
But he-
Taika Waititi.
Fix that
Right,
later.
but I've loved his movies that I've seen, and I just have to go with that one.
All right.
No brainer for me.
Okay. Debbie.
Well, I love vampire movies. It's really hard. I know The Night Stalker. I've seen that TV movie. It's a TV movie, Sean.
Right.
And so I'm going to have to, and he's my husband, so I will definitely not choose The Night Stalker.
I want to point out that Debbie has never picked my choice.
Sorry.
Okay.
I love the fact that she's so
I've always
independent.
been loyal.
She picked you. That's all that matters.
She picked you, Sean. That's all that
She
matters.
picked you.
When I've never seen Love at First Bite or What We Do in the Shadows, but I am definitely going to watch both of these films. But what I think I'm going to do is What We Do in the Shadows.
I thought maybe you'd make it interesting.
You know what?
Really, you're going to go with this one and not up here, huh? Make it a little interesting.
Ralph, I don't think that's fair. What
Well,
you're doing
I'm just
right
asking
now.
the question. I haven't dropped
picked
it yet,
it.
I'm
Debbie.
going to love both of these films.
You are.
Yeah.
They're both. You'll
Debbie,
like
it's a-
either one.
Debbie, it's a TV show. Can we make this interesting or not?
No, she picked it, Ralph. You can't
Ralph.
do that. That's not
Ralph.
fair.
Okay.
Please allow the election.
made her
election
choice.
results
Thank
to
you.
be certified.
Please let the electors choose.
You are so right.
There's an allegory, Drew.
All right. Drew.
Wait a minute.
I'm
One
going to
more.
go with What We Do in the Shadows for sure.
I thought so. All right, Drew. There you go.
Well,
What do you got?
Doesn't really matter at this point, right?
Thanks, Brad. I wanted to vote for Ed Wood, but none of you picked
Ed Wood.
The way I think about it is I've never seen Love at First Bite. And as soon as Ralph said, it's like Young Frankenstein, but Dracula, I was like, well, I don't ever need to see that.
Big mistake.
Not
forgot about that.
So that drives me away from it. The Night Stalker I've never seen, and I'm not sure why, because I'm a big fan of the X-Files, and Chris Carter, who created the X-Files, he cited his influences, and one of his big influences was the Night Stalker movies in the series.
Oh wow!
And
you never saw any of them, Drew?
I've never seen any of it.
Oh wow!
So I will definitely track it down and watch it. But I just love what we do in the shadows so much. There's so much fun stuff to talk about, and as hard as it is to give John another win in a row, I am going to go ahead and vote, even though it doesn't matter. Brad was clear about that. What we do in the shadows is going to get my vote.
Well, listen, I recommend, since we've got so much time in between, we get the break. You should try to watch all three during the break because they're all good. I mean, they really are all.
Wait a minute, the break's only like about 30 seconds.
Well,
but they don't know that because it's a whole time-space continuum thing.
Right.
So
there you go. All right. Well, enjoy the intermission, and when we come back, we'll talk about what we do in the shadows.
All right.
What's up, John?
Thanks everybody for voting.
Good
for
job.
me. I appreciate
Congratulations.
it. Thank you.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right. Well, we're back from intermission. That's a heck of a film right there. Yeah.
That's great. I needed that break.
I snuck in a little Dracula. I wanted to get some Boris Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, Boris who?
So, John, explain.
Boris Lugosi.
And I'm here now.
Well, welcome
Bela
back, Wojo.
Lugosi.
She felt
Yeah,
a lot
Wojo.
better after the break. So
Yes, I did.
glad to have you back. So I picked What We Do in the Shadows, and I did explain it in the first half, but it's really a mashup of reality TV, The Office, and all different vampire tropes. I mean, each character represented a different genre of vampires. I hadn't seen this in a long time, and I got to tell you, it wasn't hilarious, but there were certain scenes in it that I was dying. The first bite, when he bites that girl and the blood starts gushing everywhere. Oh my God, that was so funny. It was just so well done. And it was
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
The other
spoiler
thing,
alert.
it had a very small budget because it was really independent. And the special effects in it are actually pretty decent for a low budget show. And they used it sparingly, but it was effective when they used it. Even the scene when the hallways fighting and obviously the room was spinning around. I just thought it was so well done. It was funny. The cast was really good in it.
Let's give a slow down. Let's give a little background on the cast because I never watched Flight of the Conchords. Right?
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
So Jermaine Clement is one of the Flight of the Conchords.
Let's explain who created this thing because it was produced by
Jermaine.
Who was
Taika Waititi?
Taika
Waititi. Is that right?
Yeah. And it was co-directed by him and Jermaine Clement. Jermaine Clement is one half of Flight of the Conchords. It's New Zealand's number 2 folk duo comedy act. That's how they. It's a very funny show. But Jermaine Clement is funny, and him and Taika Waititi did this as an independent movie, and not a lot of money for it. And then it was released in 2014. And I think it was on Showtime. I think that's where it was showed in the US. And I remember watching it and thinking it was funny, but I didn't remember a lot of it. But it was filmed in New Zealand. So a lot of the locations they talk about are about New Zealand. And the cops in it were cops from a New Zealand cop show. Right. And the whole cast was from New Zealand. In fact, one of the guy who played Deacon, this was the first thing
Murray.
he did. He was like an accountant or something.
No, Murray was one of the werewolves.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Murray, Rhys Davies. Rhys Darby's. Deacon was an accountant or something, and this was his first movie. And he was really funny in it. He didn't like, what was the cool guy's name? Nick. He didn't like Nick because Nick was so cool. I just thought it was funny.
He wore the same jacket.
Yeah, the same jacket. And I like the fact that at the end, Stu came back. I was really bummed out about Stu. Because that whole
Stu's a
scene,
good guy. Stu's a good guy.
that whole scene at the party of the dead, and they bring Stu, and everyone's like, they brought a human to this party. Now they all wanted to eat him. We got to get him out of here. We got to get him out of here. It was just funny, and there were funny things in it. But the takeoff on reality TV, the camera work, the way they shot it was so spot on like the Real World, a little bit of The Office. But the whole concept of it was so well done, and it wasn't scripted. They wrote a script, but they didn't give the script to anybody, including the crew, so they wouldn't know what was going to happen, which is kind of interesting. And you could tell it was a lot of improvisation, and you could kind of read that into it. But I just thought it was funny, and I'm glad that that's the one we picked, because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and it was funny again. The whole take on the like when the vampire burned up and they're trying to put the fire out as he's burning. I just thought that was hilarious. I'm dying to know, has anyone not seen it before?
We hadn't seen it before.
I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it. I'm sorry, Ralph.
I enjoyed it.
I
was
liked
kind
it
of
a
like you.
lot.
I didn't think it was like laugh out loud funny the whole time, but there was just a lot of little funny, like
Jermaine makes me laugh with whatever he's in.
The poker, Vlad the poker.
But Taika Waititi, what was his character's name? It was like Viago or something.
Viago.
Yeah. He would just make those silly.
You go.
And he just cracked me up.
Well, he was
and
playing
like you said with when he
was a dandy.
the jugular.
Jugular, and he's like,
he's like,
this is
happened
not
again.
turning out the way I intended. And it's like,
all
he's
over
been
the
doing this
couch.
for 300 and some years, and he still hasn't figured out where to hit the right spot.
That was funny.
Pizza is 8,000 years old.
And he ends up with the old lady, and he's looking at the camera. Maybe this wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
No, that's not the look. That wasn't the look.
That's not, yeah.
No, the look was he was happy as a clown.
No, the look at the end, he looked at the camera.
I think you're wrong about that.
Ralph, I'm an actor. I'm an actor. You're not.
Wait, I have to confess, I did watch it on my phone, so maybe I didn't quite get.
Well, there you go.
Did you watch it while driving to the podcast?
I watched a little in my car. Yes, I did.
Okay, Hassan.
I don't think that look was that. I think that
it
look was he was happy.
I'm telling you what it was, because the line was, "We'll be together forever." And he goes,
"No, that's not."
That's exactly what he did.
I disagree. Sean, you're a vampire writer. You write vampire movies, from what I was told the last part of the segment, not last week. The last part of the segment.
Minutes ago.
The first half.
Minutes ago, a couple minutes ago. So how did you approach this when you watched it? What was your approach on this one?
Well, Debbie and I watched all three of the films, I will say. I liked this film. I thought it was funny. I really liked Taika Waititi. And, like when he was putting the newspaper down while the girl was talking. It's sort of like, this girl's kind of dense. And I did like that one line.
Could you put some newspaper down when you have guests over?
I also like the one where he was talking about virgins, too. Where he's like, well, why do we want virgins? Well, it's sort of like when you eat a sandwich, you don't want to think someone fucked it, So
that's a favorite line. You want to know their life before you fuck it.
Yeah. So, but I tell you, I thought it was kind of aimless ultimately. I just didn't feel it. I thought it was at times very funny, but it didn't compel me. I compare it to like Spinal Tap, which was another improvised film with kind of goofy characters. But the thing about Spinal Tap, by the end, I really cared about those characters, despite how crazy they were. How caricatures they were. I really cared about them. And this, I was glad to see them. I was glad to see the movie, but I didn't care really about I'm glad Stu lived.
I was going to say, you didn't care about Stu?
I cared about Stu.
Stu's a good guy.
The main one. He was a good guy.
We're not going to eat Stu.
And it was sort of like after a while, the movie was going on, and I'm sitting there thinking, how are they going to end this? What's going to be big enough to say, okay, this is the end of the movie? And
Stu coming back with the werewolf.
It's funny you mention that. And then, Drew, you can jump in on this because I think you watched the series, or you know about the series that's on Amazon.
I love it, yeah.
Right?
It's a wonderful series on FX. Yeah.
I felt like this thing, as the film, meandered. I think you were right. It meandered. I thought because they made a series, that's the way to do this. Little chunks at a time, and tell little stories. Go ahead, Drew. Compare the two if you can.
Well, I mean, the best thing about this movie is really back with what John started with, which is that it is funny, it is good. It's not necessarily laugh out loud, which is okay. That's a tone of the movie, but it has so much potential. And then they announced that they were going to make a television show, and it was like, well, I hope they don't blow it. And they didn't. It's fantastic. They transplanted it from Wellington, New Zealand to Staten Island.
Oh,
it's several vampires that share a house. They've had 3 seasons so far. It's funny, just this week they actually sort of quietly announced that they've renewed it for a 4th season, which is
and what's it called?
Excellent. It's called What We Do in the Shadows, and it's on FX. It has the same Norma Tanger theme song. You're dead. And,
it's just Drew. Is it shot the same way, same format?
Yeah, it's that mockumentary Office type of thing, and it's a different cast. There are some familiar faces. I don't want to ruin any of the surprises. There's a lot of those jokes actually, and the same people, Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi, are both behind it. I think have directed several of the episodes, and it's like this movie is very good. And when I first saw it, I said, "This is great. I love this movie." But man. The TV series just shoots so much higher, and it wouldn't exist without the movie. So start with this movie and then get into the show. It's amazing.
The movie's almost like the pilot, right? I mean, it's like a pilot.
It sets the tone. There's also actually a second TV show that's come out of this series called Wellington Paranormal. You remember that scene where the 2 cops come in and they investigate the murder and they get glamored the whole time? So there's no smoke detectors in here, that whole thing. I have not seen it because I can't find it out in the States, but Wellington Paranormal has been on for a couple seasons, and it's about a couple of normal cops. I think the female cop is also in the show. I'm not sure about the male cop. There's just a bunch of weird murders and incidents, and they're trying to figure it out. And that's supposed to be very funny too. So it's clearly a very rich.
I also read they're supposed to do something with the werewolves.
Yeah, that's supposed to happen too. Rhys Darby. Rhys Darby is amazing. And,
I love him.
I love him. The stuff that these guys have done together is amazing. Yeah, he's the alpha.
He was the alpha male. He was the agent. He was their agent in Flight of the Conchords.
In Flight of the Conchords.
He was so good.
When he got him the gig in the elevator.
Yep, that was a great show too.
I love that.
Time, Ralph. It's really worth a watch. Flight of the Conchords.
Strange. Have we lost one of our group?
Yeah, they dropped off. We just keep going. We gotta, the show must go on.
Wow.
I don't know.
I guess they didn't like Drew's positivity about the show.
It happens.
I don't know what happened, but keep going.
I've been really gentle about all the mispronouncing the names and stuff. So.
I did see your eyes.
Maybe he was going back to check to make sure he had smoke detectors in the house.
Exactly. I'll have to watch the series. I knew it was on, but I didn't think anybody from the movie was. Is anybody from the movie in it? Forget about cameos. You don't have to give that away.
I don't want to say that. What I want to say is, if you watch the show, you will forget that they're not in it, because the new characters are also fantastic.
But none of them are like a regular cast member. Anybody that was in this one, right?
No, I don't think that's part of it.
Again, it's such a rich. We don't want to say genre, but it's such a rich thing that you just think about all, like even Peter, the Peter guy who gets burned, the guy gets burned up. They hit every one of the right.
Look, I mean, the Office, the Ricky Gervais Office is spectacular, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And then the American Office, except for the very first episode where they did a straight reshoot of the original pilot script, the American Office is also a great show.
Right.
They're different.
Right.
Wearing the same kind of big shirts that they wore in the Office in the British version, which was very weird.
It was very weird. But I mean, you could do another season of a show just like The Office and set it in a different company in a different city. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of, like, Law and Order has been franchised all over the world. Like, it's a good idea. So a documentary crew following around a bunch of vampires that live together in a flat situation is very funny. The TV show is just, I mean, I want to say all these lines from the TV show in my head because they're just, it's so great.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, I definitely recommend. And you're lucky you can binge it if you get into it.
Yeah,
3 seasons.
I will.
Amazing.
I like the chyron at the beginning when they said the crew members were wearing crucifixes and they agreed not to eat them or whatever it said.
Only one crew member got werewolf got one of the guys. I felt bad for that cameraman.
Yeah, Rodney.
Oh yeah.
He got dragged away. Yeah, he got dragged away.
Hey, welcome back, you guys.
Hey, it was not an internet problem. I actually pulled the plug out of the
I thought you were upset about
plugins.
Hey, are you ready for my comments on this film?
Yeah, absolutely.
Love to hear it.
About DNA and
do they?
This is straight from how I laughed at this movie. This was, what got me was the trailer. Why I chose your movie over Ralph's and Sean's, because it was cut so fast, and that was the best part. It was the trailer. If they would have really condensed the film more and just made it, straight funny, it would have been better. That's my.
Wait. I thought you were saying it was really funny. You're saying it was not tight enough?
It was not tight enough, and it lost its funny because it wasn't. The jokes were not
so funny.
The jokes weren't rapid fire. I mean,
they weren't. They weren't. It could have been.
But they were setting up a lot of jokes.
Listen.
That's what was so charming.
It was also set up to be very much like a real
That's
world.
why
exactly. A day in the life.
But then,
listen, I'm going to say I didn't love it either. I felt the same way, like it meandered, like Sean said earlier. But I also knew the series was out there, and I said, you know what? They always say, would this make a Netflix series? This would, and it turns out it's working great as a series, like in little chunks. I think it would be better.
You got to take comedy like that in little chunks. You can't do it all in an hour. 30
an hour and a half.
And also, I mean, it's about vampires, so they've probably already signed them up for 400 years worth of episodes.
Right.
Because you don't need to recast or anything.
John mentioned about
Keith Richards, Betty White.
Right. John mentioned about
welcome to season 435.
About the stakes in this, because you knew the vampires were going to, other than Peter getting burned up, there's a chance that I think one guy was playing the piano at the end, hoping the curtain would open up or something. There was a little bit of a, my favorite thing, the beast, the idea that the beast.
Oh yeah.
And the way they ended that button, that it's his ex-girlfriend. That was kind of brilliant.
That was funny.
And Stu,
and that she didn't recognize him was pretty funny too.
Right. And right away she called him an asshole too.
And then when Stu got taken down by the werewolves, you felt kind of bad. It's like,
sad.
They protected him for so long.
Yeah.
And then,
Nick was bummed out.
Yeah, he comes back.
I also like the fact that the guy they didn't want to eat was named after food.
Right.
Do you see the worm?
The worms? You just came up with that.
I thought of it then. I never.
The worms, yeah. What they call it? Not spaghetti. What they call Paschetti?
Paschetti.
You want some paschetti? And they're all next to each other. It's gonna be funny.
In the Lost Boys.
And then when he threw up after eating the French fries.
There's a lot of funny. There's a lot of funny moments in this film. I just think I just missed some gravitas from a vampire film a little bit. Like I wanted to just dive into a good vampire film.
Gravitas.
I thought
the computer's frozen.
And that's why you picked Love at First Bite, because you wanted gravitas.
Good point.
Actually, that's a very gravitasial movie. Actually,
look, I think half the movie wasn't about being funny. It was about being the real world. I mean,
what I mean is a consistent theme. Like the theme, they were all over the place because they're doing multi-vampire tropes. We use another word you hate, tropes. They were using every one of them, right? All of them. Werewolves, Peter, the Nosferatu, the dandy vampire. They got them all. Vlad the Impaler. That's who.
Vlad the Poker.
That he was knitting.
He wasn't the Impaler.
He was knitting there.
My point is, Vlad the Impaler is the original Dracula, supposedly. And
so there was a lot of gravitas there.
So I was just looking for a little more cohesiveness.
Oh,
and I still loved it. I'm not saying, and now I want to watch the series because I
me
watched
too.
this. Yeah, so that worked well. Anybody else have anything else?
Well, I wanted to try and get my cousin.
Go ahead, Drew.
Oh, Sean looks very pensive.
They're gone again.
We lost.
Pull the plug. I wanted to get my cousin on. She moved to New Zealand this year. She's the chief medical examiner of Wellington, New Zealand. So I wanted to have her on. Yeah. I wanted to have her on to talk about, if there are any vampire injuries and stuff like that. But honestly, the schedule kept changing, so I couldn't line it up with you.
Oh my God. Now I don't know whether he's really. No, he's
no. That's being passive aggressive right there. You can see it.
No, that was aggressive.
That is my cousin.
No, actually, you know what? That wasn't passive at all.
That wasn't passive. No,
that's right. That wasn't passive.
My cousin is actually. She did leave the United States to go to New Zealand with her family. So she got out during COVID, and she's now the chief medical examiner. And
wow.
They're hi TJ and Judy, I love you, but it's just funny because I'm watching this movie this week and I'm like, oh, this is shot all over Wellington. I've never had any family in New Zealand. I've got cousins in Adelaide and now I've got cousins in Wellington, and it's just funny to see that. And the TV show also has that lived in, like, it's about ridiculous things, but it feels like a real city. And how would these people be? Like just so many of the jokes, like we have to be invited in or we can't go in the club.
Yeah.
It's just so smart.
What? Invite us in.
Right. You can go in. And also it's a really nice introduction to what Taika Waititi brings to all of his projects.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I like Marvel movies. I think they're fun. But Thor Ragnarok, which is the one that he did, is a whole other level of like genuinely good action.
Yeah. And they made Thor. They made Thor interesting.
Right. Exactly. And it's so funny without sacrificing any good storytelling.
Right.
And that's all on display here. That's why I think the TV show could go on, as long as they want to make it, I'll watch it.
Is it filmed in New York?
I don't know. Actually, I doubt it because, movie magic or whatever, but it could be. It could be. That's the thing. It feels like, the real world New York, except it's vampires.
Hey, did Sean text you to pull the plug again?
Watching, but I watched the Real World reunion.
You did? Oh my God.
Well, it's just been they're putting out one episode a week, as Drew said, which is
you realize how spoiled we are.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't watch it that way. That's why WandaVision, I waited till they all dropped before I watched it, and everyone was trying to tell me about it. I don't want to hear about it till they all drop.
Yeah, but is that on you or them? Who's that on? Like, I used to hate that when I'd watch, if I was into a series and someone's four behind. I mean, whose fault is that? That's you got to catch. You got to be on. You got to be there.
You don't.
Yes, well,
you really don't.
As he proved tonight.
Yeah, I think that's on you.
6:30.
I want to watch the whole thing at once.
I got 4 more holes to go here. I need to finish this up first.
I just looked up where they filmed it. I should have known. Where do they film TV shows if they're supposed to be New York, but they're not in New York?
Toronto,
Canada,
exactly.
Or Vancouver.
They shoot it in Toronto.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like Vancouver, but it's Toronto.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'll have to watch that.
The movie was shot in Wellington.
It does.
Yeah, the movie was shot in Wellington.
Yeah.
Hey, what happened? You pulled the plug again?
Last time it was the internet.
Okay, all right.
All right, well, you just missed the best
we're
part
done,
of the show.
and
One more time to
Wojo
go.
won for the next movie. So, what are you going to pick, Wojo? I'm kidding.
Wait a minute, it's not true.
No, it's not true.
It's not
we
true.
didn't do the Wheel of Fun
Sean,
yet.
Any last things you'd like to add about this film before we move on?
Well,
Yeah, add some gravitas.
I think we ended up watching all 3 films.
Not funny.
And I really thought this one was like a Saturday Night Live thing. It wasn't really but it was great. But as far as movies go, Ralph's movie was I should have picked Ralph's movie.
why? You hated it.
Oh, that was the one from the 70s.
Love at First Bite.
Oh, Night Stalker.
No, Love at First Bite. Sean picked Night Stalker.
And
No,
then,
Debbie, are you saying you liked Love at First Bite or you didn't?
yeah,
like
I liked it. I
I
really
liked it. I
Oh, when
I
George
loved that one.
Hamilton in all
Yeah.
his orange glory.
Artie Johnson.
Except he was a vampire, so he was all pale in this one.
Right.
Yeah.
the movie.
All good. No, but this one, I enjoyed this one, but it did make me. The good news is it makes me want to see the series because I felt like, it just. I think it's better as a series. I think my opinion. I haven't even seen.
You should have all just watched Dracula.
No.
Ralph, did you watch Dracula?
I've seen Dracula.
When's the last time you saw Dracula?
1932. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
You weren't
Okay.
born in 1932.
Okay.
I don't
It was
know.
1920.
It's been a long time.
I'm just waiting for Tim Burton to remake it, and then I'll watch it. So I think that would probably be the best.
I liked Bram.
best possible thing.
Coppola's
liked-
version wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was beautifully shot.
I
but it
have
was
seen.
okay.
I have seen that was 1932 Dracula. I have seen
Yeah.
that one. I don't know what year it came out, but I have seen it. But again, you know my feeling about that old style.
Yeah, it's black, and white,
movies
which you hate.
suck,
Not
according
black
to
and
Ralph.
white, just the
It's
old,
overacting.
The overacted
Just old.
stuff.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Ralph?
Make your blood. Children of the night, come on. Yeah, come on. Let's go.
Children
All
of the
right.
night, what music they make.
That's good. All right. Anybody else want to say anything else about this film before we move on to
Before we become disconnected.
Before Sean goes.
yes, before Sean's internet crashes again. All right. Well, that's we're gonna take a little pause on the Yippee-Ki-Yay showdowns. They were great. I enjoyed all of them, and we're gonna go to Yippee-Ki-Yay Classic, which
All
means
right.
one of us. What's that?
All right.
That's right.
Which means
So one
now
of
it's
us-
made with high fructose corn syrup.
That's right.
It's new Coke.
And look, the only way you're going to know about this is if you subscribe, hit the notification button, and share the crap out
If
of
you
it.
made
all
it
right?
this far into this,
This
that's
is
right.
gold.
Please
This is
subscribe.
gold.
Comedy gold,
but
man. It's comedy
unlike-
gold. Jerry.
One thing we did learn from the Yippee-Ki-Yay showdowns is we like the wheel of universe picking who does what.
The wheel of universe.
The wheel, the picker wheel. We'll call it the
He's
picker
getting
wheel.
real mystical on us.
So we're gonna let the wheel pick who brings the next film.
All right. So this is the old format. One person's going to bring a movie. We're all going to
That's
watch
right.
it.
We
Big
call
money,
it
big
Yippee-Ki-Yay
money.
Classic, but
No
it's really
whammies.
Yippee-Ki-Yay Deep Dive. We're gonna deep dive on one film. And,
Old school.
We all
That's
watch
what we
the
used to
film
do.
and then we talk about it. So
Right.
Old school, way back in
way old school.
December.
So let me see.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. You guys seeing the wheel?
Oh, there's the
I
wheel
got-
of fun.
Here's
Here
the
we
wheel.
go. Stand
The
by.
image picker wheel. Drew.
Looks like a Drew
It's
joint.
me.
Oh, it's
Right.
true. Like,
That's
who the
me.
hell is that?
Now,
Cat?
Drew, you don't have to
Cat
tell
needs
us
to
right
pick.
now because I know it's going to be Mad Max Fury Road, but we'll give you a couple days if you want to let us know what the film is.
I'll
So-
pick something and I'll let you know. I don't think it would be fair to say the whole What We Do in the Shadows TV series, but I hope you'll explore that as well. But I'll let you guys know.
You'll have to let us know quick because we're going to do this Tuesday, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
we don't have a lot of time. So
But no pressure.
Then I'll pick right now. There's one I've had teed up for a while. Let's do Wind River, written and directed by Taylor Sheridan from 2017. It stars Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen. It's a really extraordinary movie. It's an extraordinary thriller. Also, what it's about are important issues that you don't usually see in the movies. And the reason you probably haven't seen it, if you haven't seen it, is also its own story that connects to the themes of the movie. It's a challenging watch. It's a tough story, but it's amazing, and it should have been up for Oscars and all those types of things. And I'll tell you guys why it never made it to that point. And it's definitely worth your time. You may have seen other movies by Taylor Sheridan. He wrote Sicario and Hell or High Water, and he's now the guy behind the Yellowstone TV series.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
he's been
okay.
working
Hell and
for a
High
long
Water's a
time
good
and,
one too.
and doing a
Yeah,
lot of
we
good
like
stuff.
that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I've
so-
seen this one, so I can't wait to hear everybody else's take on this one because I enjoyed it quite a bit. So good,
Yeah.
good pull. Good pull. All right.
Enjoy
well, there you
Wind
go.
River.
So we got a couple, John gave away the inside baseball that, when we record all this stuff, but that's fine.
What?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know how that happened. So until next time, everybody have a safe week. We're a year out of COVID. This is a weird anniversary as we're taping this or shooting this. It's been a year.
It's been a fun year on the episode.
Interesting year for sure.
Yeah.
So you guys, I'll say it anyway. Stay safe, stay happy, watch a lot of films, and we'll see you guys next time. All right.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.